Hi friends, in today's tutorial I'm going to be walking you through how to draw Saint Maximilian Kolbe step by step using simple lines and simple shapes. We celebrate his feast day on August 14th, and for this project you need a piece of paper, a pencil, and something to color with. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw an oval for his head. You, of course, can do any size or shape head that you want to, and I'm going to be putting mine at the top of my paper. So I'm going to create my oval shape to kind of give me a general idea of where I want his head to go on my drawing, and I, of course, can make any changes that I need to by using the eraser on my pencil. So we're going to be putting in his beard later. We just kind of wanted to get his head all put in. And we're going to be putting in his shoulders next. So his shoulders are going to come in off the sides of this oval that we drew. So we're going to draw one diagonal line that goes off towards the left corner of our paper. And we're going to do another line that comes off at a diagonal towards the right side of our paper. And these lines create the width of his shoulders. We're going to put in two more diagonal lines to create the sides. So I'm going to put one over on the left side coming down, and I'm going to put another one on the right side that comes down at an angle like this. We are going to connect those lines with a curved line, and that's going to create the top part of his clothing. So I'm just connecting one side to the other side. We're going to be placing in his arms next. So he has his arms kind of clasped in front of him. So we're going to be putting in some curved lines to create the bottom parts of his sleeves. So we're going to start over on this left side. There's a little bit of space in between the corner of this top part of his clothing and where the sleeve starts to come out. It's almost in line with the shoulder here. And I'm going to do a curved line that comes down towards the middle of my paper like this. I'm going to draw a line that comes up like this to create the opening of his sleeve. And I'm going to do another line that comes in and connects to that top part of his robe. I'm going to do a line ever so slightly behind this sleeve coming up, and it kind of creates this little letter V shape. So this is the top part of his sleeve, and I'm going to do a slight curve, leaving a little bit of space from this edge. I'm going to draw a curve that comes down kind of like this. And I'm just going to stop that line there for now. We'll finish up that sleeve in a little bit after we finish his hands. So we're going to start off by putting kind of a square shape for where we want his hands to go. So I'm going to start by drawing a square here, and that's creating the first part of his hand. And I can see a little bit of a thumb sticking out, so I'm going to draw an up and down line, think almost like a triangle shape, and that's going to create the edge of his thumb. I can erase the top part of this line here. It creates a separation between his thumb and these fingers, which are kind of creating this fist. I can see a hint of a couple fingers on this side of my hand. So I'm going to put one kind of squared off line here for one finger, and I'm going to add one more finger kind of peeking out past that fist. I'm going to add one more line to kind of finish up this sleeve, and that's going to finish up that sleeve that's on the right side of his body. We're going to be putting in two diagonal lines for the sides of his clothing. So on his body, kind of like a little bit down from like where his arm comes out, here, I'm going to put one diagonal line that comes off towards the left side at a slight angle towards the bottom left corner of my paper. And you just draw that line as far down as you want the clothing to go. And we're going to draw a similar line coming out on the right side, and it's going to stop at the same spot as my first line. Once I get those lines just the way I want, I'm going to connect it with a wavy line. So I'm going to start on this left side, and I'm just going to move my pencil up and down and up and down as many or as few times as I can before reaching the other side and connecting them. We're going to put in his feet next. So we're going to start off with these inner heels. So in the middle, down at the bottom, you're going to draw 2 parallel lines. It's going to start off looking almost like the number 11. And these are creating the inner heels of his feet. We're going to do 2 diagonal lines that come downwards, and that's setting the angle of his foot. So I can put one going off towards the left side and one coming off towards the right side, and I just draw it as long as I want his foot to be. So you can make it as long or as short as you wish. I'm going to curl those lines up and back towards the wavy line of the bottom of his robe. So the curve creates the point of the toe, and then I just bring it back until I touch his robe. We're going to add this belt and his rosary. So if you have some space in between this gap here on the arms, you can put 2 straight across lines, and that creates the part of his belt that is wrapped around his waist, just kind of peeking out in between his arms. And then we're going to do these long lines here for these parts. I'm going to put one line that comes down from his arm, and I'm going to stop, and I'm going to do a second line that is a little bit longer, kind of like this. I'm going to connect this first one to the big one with a straight across line, and I'm going to create one more long line that's the same length as the longest one, so they're parallel, and I'm going to connect them. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 circles on this big line, so I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little circles to create some knots. Saint Maximilian Kolbe loved Mary, and I thought it'd be appropriate to add this rosary here hanging off of his belt. So I'm going to start off by drawing a crucifix. So I start off with almost like I'm drawing a rectangle, but I stop before I connect it at the bottom. I'm going to put one line here on the left and one line here at the right to create the short side of the beams. I'm going to draw a line down on each side, and I'm going to have them come in towards the middle like that. So that's creating the upper part of my cross. And I'm going to do one more kind of long rectangle kind of shape for the bottom of that rosary crucifix. Above the crucifix, I'm going to put a line that comes up until I hit his arm. And I'm going to do a big curved line, kind of like a letter U, coming down and then coming back up towards the cross like that. And mine's a little bit bigger in this example than I did in this example, so you can make it any size or shape you want. Mine's just a little bit bigger, but that is okay. I like the way it looks. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start to add little circles on top of this line to create the beads of the rosary. Moving on, we're going to be working on his head. So I'm going to start by putting in the shape of his ears. Kind of in the middle of the oval shape, I'm going to do one curve over on the left side, and I'm going to do another curve over on the right side. Think like a parenthesis. For the top of his hair, he has kind of like a thin sliver of hair up at the top that kind of creates this little point, almost like the top part of a heart. So I'm going to draw a line that's kind of close to the outside edge of my oval. And when I get to the middle, I'm going to have it come down just a little bit, almost like I was going to start to draw a heart. And I'm going to add a curve on this right side, staying close to the top of the oval shape of his head and kind of coming down near where his ear is. That creates his hairline. We're going to be putting in his face next. We're actually going to start with his glasses. So in the middle of your oval shape, I want you to draw a straight across line, kind of like a minus sign. That creates the bridge of his glasses, and we're going to do 2 circles. And we want to make these circles kind of big. That way we have room to fit eyes inside of those glass frames later on. Once you get the frames drawn out, we're just going to add these edges that go over the ears. So you're going to start on your circle kind of near the middle on the edge and then angle a line up towards where your ears are. To finish up his eyes, I'm going to put 2 small circles in the middle of those circles to create his pupils, and I'm going to do a slightly curved line above it, think kind of like a frown, and that's creating the top eyelid. We're going to put his nose in next, so in between his eyes and the bottom of his chin, kind of in the middle, you're going to put a slight curved line, think kind of like a smile, and that's creating the bottom part of his nose. And I have one little line here that comes down kind of near the left side of his face, and that's creating kind of like the edge of his nose, just a hint. I'm going to do a straight line in between his nose and his chin, kind of in the middle for his mouth. He always looks kind of serious in photographs that I've seen of him online, but you of course can make his mouth any shape that you want on yours. We're also going to be putting in some eyebrows. So what I'm going to do is above his circle glasses, I'm going to do one line that kind of comes up at a slight angle. And this is creating the overall arch of his eyebrows. But I want to soften them just a little bit. So on the edges, I'm going to slightly curve it down on the side that's closest to the ear. And I'm going to do one little line that comes up here on this left side so we can see a little bit of his eyebrow showing. And you can make those as thick or as thin as you want to in your artwork. The last thing that I'm going to do as far as his face is concerned is I want to put in a beard. Again, sometimes you see him with a really long beard, sometimes you see it shaved to his face. So I'm going to let you decide how long or short you want his facial hair to be. Maybe you want no facial hair. Maybe you want to do a beard like me. If you want to do a beard, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a wavy line, kind of move your pencil in and out as far down as you want that beard to go. And I kind of start on the edges near the ears. So I do a wavy line in and out like this. And I'm going to add some more wavy lines kind of in between these 2 lines to kind of start to create more texture and more hairs on my beard. The nice thing about deciding whether you want to do a beard or not is when we're artists, we get to make decisions and we get to decide how we want our illustrations to look. So we can kind of customize it however we wish, and you can decide what part of Maximilian Kolbe's life you want to represent in your drawing. We're going to finish up his beard and mustache. So underneath his nose, I'm going to put one line that curves down past the edges of his mouth on each side. That's creating the side edges of the mustache. And I'm going to add some more lines kind of like in between above his lip to create those mustache hairs. And underneath that mustache, I'm going to do a wavy line underneath his mouth to create this part of his beard. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw straight up and down lines kind of in between his jawline and where his mustache is. And I'm going to erase this oval shape And that finishes off his beard. So an important part of Maximilian Kolbe's story that I wanted to incorporate in this drawing was his halos. So you'll notice that there is a red halo next to a white halo. When Maximilian Kolbe was young, he had a vision where he was offered 2 crowns by Our Lady, a white crown for a life of heroic virtue and the red crown of martyrdom. And I wanted to include that in my artwork as his halo to kind of represent that part of his life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take something circular to trace that I want to be the size of my halo. I just have this little can of powder, and I'm just going to hold it up against my artwork on top of his head, and I'm going to trace around with my pencil. You can also draw the circle, the shape that you want, but I feel like it can be nice to trace something since we've been working so hard on all the other parts of our artwork. To do his halo, what I did was I took a red marker, and next to the line that I drew for my halo, I just left a little bit of white space. And that white space is meant to represent that white crown. So I'm going to go all the way around, kind of like this, trying to match that circular shape as best as I can. And then I'm going to use a black marker to trace on top of my original pencil line. And that makes it look like he has a red crown and a white crown in the form of a halo. But maybe you want to make yours different. Maybe you want to actually draw crowns or do a different style halo or no halo. It is up to you. So once you finish your artwork, the only thing left to do is color it with your favorite art supplies. I'm going to be using markers because that's what shows up on camera well. And when I use markers, I love to use black pens, kind of like this, to trace my pencil. You, of course, can use your favorite art supplies, and feel free to match along with my coloring if you wish. Thank you so much for following along. I would love to see how your drawings turned out. Feel free to tag me on social media. And if you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Amy Heyse, and I post new Catholic-inspired art tutorials here on my channel every week. Another way that you can help support my channel is through my Buy Me a Coffee page and art supply wish list. I want to remind you that you are loved, God loves you very much, and He loves your artwork very much. Thank you so much for drawing along with me, and I'll see you in the next video.